basically what will happen, folks, is that they will continue the discussion and they will just ease out and sit down and sitting, because as you see, for some reason it's separated from the pack. But hopefully, as they get to know each other, you will as well, and you will eavesdrop a little bit more on what they're doing. But essentially, what we've been asked to look at today is retrofitting or redesigning. And these are words which are buzzwords nowadays. You know, Detroit is trying to retrofit its cars to run on batteries rather than fossil fuels, even though the process of making the batteries is just as destructive as the extraction of the fossil fuels in some cases. People are talking about redesigning, retooling. But what does it really mean from our perspective? What does it mean from the Caribbean's point of view? Should we retrofit, put new gadgets on top of an old model? Or do we need a new model entirely? And why do we need a new model? What's wrong with the model that we have? And some of you, I think each of us has an idea of what we think is wrong. But unless we are all seeing exactly where we're going wrong and why we need to either redesign or retrofit, then there's nothing wrong with tradition and dependency. There are some traditions that are rather good, and some traditions that, if we had only stuck onto them, we wouldn't be catching hell with chronic non-communicable diseases at academic level. There's nothing terribly wrong with dependency. The biologists in the room will talk about interdependency, not so? And the importance in ecosystems of, you know, the predator depending on the prey and the food chain and so on. Maybe nothing wrong with that. But they will tell you why they think that there is something wrong with dependency. They will tell you why they think that the traditional ways of doing things are not working for us. And so with that, rather than, you know, the usual opening statements as if the plaintiff has to, the prosecution has to put its case, I want to ask, essentially, very quickly beginning from putting the youth and the experience or the veterans together, particularly Fritz, right? Why have you gone the route that you've gone in hydroponics, shade production? Explain a little bit for those of us who aren't that familiar, but why did you feel the necessity to go this route that suggests sustainability and actually taking a product and using all of its outputs, if you will, to feed another product and keep a cycle going? So just explain that, and then I'll ask Keely to give her take on it from her perspective. Thank you. Microphone now.
I want to begin by saying, because of the changing weather and the weather pattern, it has forced me to go down another route.
When you say changing weather pattern, rainfall?
Yeah, when I say changing weather pattern, I mean the rainfall. What we're experiencing right now is the two extremes of the weather. They're very harsh and it's never like this before. We custom to farm in traditional areas where we have period for rain and period for sun. It doesn't exist anymore. So in the half of the sun, when you decide to do land preparation, here comes the rain. And here we are, we have a very high water table. So it takes a long time after using land preparation for the sun to develop in the land. And halfway that, you find that the rains are there, you cannot plant. So it forces us to go down the other route in terms of shade production. What shade production has also done is to bring to the light and to the understanding of the farm, what we never really understand when our policymakers say that we must plant more. The plant more is that you will bear some more pain because when the rains come and the plants are halfway the stage that it's finished. But now with the new shade house technology, we now have the full experience of what it takes to plant more. Because when I go into shade house in the first instance, I used to be doing a series of crops. And it was always there all the time. I never suffered because of the two extremes of the weather. Insect infestations are not there that much, even though the cost is somewhat at the initial stage high because of these additional things you have to do. But thereafter, the production by itself, standard cost. What I was saying in terms of grow more, we never really understood what it was. Because when they say grow more, and you plant 4 acres now, you plant 8 acres. And when the rains come in at the last 4 suffers. So because of shade house technology, I had to concentrate on lettuce. Because planting lettuce, I never had enough to sell. And the reason why when the rains come, the lettuce and the soil will grow. In the place is too dry to grow so. And when it's under the shade house, you have to sell all the time. Now, there's what you call network marketing. And they're the buyers out there. When they ask one buyer, where do you get from? I got from this guy. And he also from.
How do you manage that network?
Well, because the demand is great, I am at the advantage end of it.
This is a telephone thing? You call this person. How do you get that word out about?
I don't have to.
You don't have to?
No. Because it normally come there as where you get from. And you already not coming.
So no social media, no Facebook, no Twitter, no IT solution? Shocking.
So what's happening is that?
So tradition is working then? It can work.
It does work. Now, what I'm saying to you is that there's certain times when you won't get certain commodities anymore. And then in houses, they have persons who associate. They would ask one another where you get the stuff from. And he would say, get from here.
Restaurant?
Yeah. One restaurant to tell another restaurant where I get it from this thing. And that then would also come and he would also tell someone. So here you are, the receiver, and you just keep calling in every day, oh, you're the same, so he said yes. Can you let me know that we have so much fun with it? In order to hold the market, I have to paralyze the rest of customers to make money. So I have like
Is everybody hearing? No. No? You need to keep the microphone up.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that as it is right now, I have a little under like 4,000 square feet of lettuce. And it is not enough.
It is not enough.
It is not enough.
And what kind of lettuce is it? Romaine, is it red lettuce? What is it generally? I didn't get it. What kind of lettuce?
It's iceberg.
Iceberg?
Yeah.
Which is water intensive, is it not? There's a very heavy water use.
But because of the facility and the shade house technologies, it's not difficult for you to work. It's not laborious. You will spend like 4 hours in one day to do like 2 days work.
Quick question about the inputs. How do you reuse your inputs? Are you bringing in chemicals into the mix? What are you doing that sustains that production so that you're not engaging in more expenditure to produce that crop over and over again, the traditional way?
The medium that you use for planting is sun and paddy husk.
Paddy husk?
Yeah. And that combination, one mix will give you like a year's running. You understand? You don't have to change it within a year. And when I say change, not all of it. Incorporate more paddy into the stuff.
So it breaks down. So it's not. So you're just adding.
Yeah, you add more paddy husk to the stuff. And then you use your liquid fertilizer. The system is so structured that you can recycle the fertilizer on the set. And in terms of your insecticide, you use natural stuff like neem, peppers, and garlic.
I'm going to be talking a little bit more neem, pepper, and garlic from my own personal. I'm getting a personal, deriving personal satisfaction. That's yeah, opening doors necessary for that. Thank you, Chris, for the same meeting. But yeah,
I have
a DVD. Okay, so we get a chance to maybe run it during a break or something. Now, you've heard Fitzroy's perspective. You are the young, hot superstar in Barbadian agriculture. I bring you greetings from my father, by the way, who was very impressed by your appearance on a radio program a few Sundays ago. And he's going to get a call. You're going to get a call from him about broccoli. But in the meantime, put your perspective on it. Why would we need to make a change? Or is it a retrofitting? Or is it a redesigning? Is it tradition that we have to hold on to? Dependency, put it in your perspective.
Okay. I think we need to do a little bit. I don't think that the answer is to throw it out the bowl, we throw the baby in the bathwater. I don't think it's a case where we need to bring everything new. There is room for the new as well. But there needs to be a better blend of what we have and the new things that we can add. And my perspective, first of all, is that agriculture over the last 40 years, particularly in food crop production, has just led to 10 years. And that is a problem because now we find ourselves in a situation where we're being asked to be globally competitive and we don't know how. We have high bung rates on all of our agricultural products. And all it has done is created a sector that says we can be as uncompetitive as we want to be and we can still produce food for the local market. We've not been helping our farmers. Our policies have been directed at telling farmers what to do as opposed to empowering farmers so that they can do what needs to get done.
Well, what is it that needs to be done? What is it? Is this grow more? Because you heard it from Fitzroy, grow more. That's the overall policy from the Ghana perspective. Grow more. So what is it that you,
the first thing that needs to be done is that we need to switch from a producer-driven market to a consumer-driven market. The farmers, the farming community, and that is the first fundamental problem that we have. Because at the end of the day, here's what's happened. You've had 40 years since independence for most of these Caribbean territories. The countries have been developing. When you see the pattern of economic growth that you have as the countries develop, what you see is that the agricultural sector as a proportion of the economy shrinks relative to the growth of the other areas of the economy. And so no longer is it an area for government intervention like it was before. And it means that it should switch from a government-led activity to being a private sector-led activity. That has not happened. It is still a government-led activity. It should switch from being a producer-driven activity to being a consumer-driven activity because we're not at the stage of development as a lot of poor countries, probably with the exception of maybe Haiti. So we have consumers who know what they want. We have consumers who are demanding what the products are. And we still have farmers who are growing first and telling the consumers that this is what you must take. And as long as you're doing that, you're always going to get this kind of problems because the market is driving it. And our policies are centered around growing more, not working with the market to determine what we should grow, how much, what the consumers want.
Are you saying that the policy should be more market-driven?
It has to be market-led. Agriculture in the Caribbean is a market-led activity. And that is where your major fundamental problem is. This is where the dependency is coming. And when you look at the sectors, if you look at poultry, for example, if you look at the livestock sectors, where they have to know where their meat is going ahead of time, they don't have half the problems that the fruit and veg sector has. Because the fruit and veg is growing, and somebody's going to call somebody and tell somebody that you have what it is. But that doesn't work, because the problem with the fruit and veg sector is that it has a short shelf life. And the other aspect of that is that we've not developed the value-added proposition. And in terms of value-added, we always think sauces and hot peppers and seasoning. And we're not looking at the fresh cut industry, which is a $6.4 billion industry, $5.4 billion industry in the US and the UK. And when you ask all the consumers in developed nations, value is what they're looking for. We're doing prepackaged. When you see the stuff that's coming out here, you don't have to worry about the imported bill of primary products anymore. Look at the frozen section in large supermarkets and see where the proposition is, and that is where our problems are. We don't see those aspects of it. That doesn't even come to mind. There's very little on the table discussing that, and that's where a lot of the discussion needs to be for primary production. The fundamental problem is that even though food is a basic need, because we as farmers grow food, it doesn't mean that we're going to say, we grow the food, you take whatever it is that we produce. The same way how that you have the medical profession providing a basic need to people, but there are the professionals who are doing it, not the government telling them how to practice medicine.
Yeah, but market-based medicine isn't a very helpful thing when we look at the United States. So the question would have to be, if you're so concentrated on the market in your policy, do you not foresee a situation where everything follows the market, the price follows the market.
The prices follow the
haves and
market now.
have-nots. There will be haves and have-nots. There will be some weakening of that whole concept of food security. If you're so market-driven that people's needs of children for healthy alternatives, you know, the fast food industry will say, you know, I want more of this. The hotels already will say they want more of what you have at a lower price. So I'm just wondering, to what extent will that market-driven philosophy not defeat sustainability?
It won't, because at the end of the day, we are growing for the people in the country. We cannot produce a product that they don't want. If we produce it at a price that they don't want, then they leave it. The reality is, right now, agriculture and food crop production in particular is a market-led activity. The farmers still grow, and when the market is saturated, what happens? The price drops to nothing. So it is already a market-led activity, but we don't practice it as a market-led profession. And that's where the conflict is coming. Some of the things that we need to do in terms of recognizing that what we are doing is, there's no best way in terms of production. We have this idea, we want the best way to do X and the best way to do Y. And I see agriculture more like the cell phone industry. If you can tell me what is the best cell phone around right now, then I would say, okay, but there's no best cell phone. There are BlackBerries. Everybody might agree that going to smartphones is better, but at the end of the day, you can choose between BlackBerry or Android or whatever it is. So the same thing with the agricultural sector in terms of what we're producing and what we're doing and the production. We keep looking for the best perfect way to produce food. And it is dependent on too many.
Sustainable way and an unsustainable way, you would have to
There is a sustainable way, absolutely. But even many of our traditional practices aren't necessarily sustainable. The reality is that sustainability comes by understanding your environment and maximizing your output from the environment without causing severe harm on the environment.
All right. Let me leave it there for the moment, Kelly. That makes any sense to you? You hear anything from there? Because you're big. And the question is, you know, you've been able to maximize, you have tremendous market share in your country. How does that gel with what you've heard so far?
Okay, what I'm going to talk about today will be more on the ranch side of it and the agricultural part of it, rather than processing what goes on there. I was lucky to have processing involved in my operation because it gave me the consumer market trends. It taught me what the people want, so what I had to do. So, and that made us a lot more efficient because we had to follow, for example, in beef. You know, we were producing the regular Brahmas, the regular tropical type animal, and the market don't want that. They want the American style, marble beef, whatever. So we had to make changes in our genetics. Making changes in the genetics, it became more efficient. You know, we crossbreed. We had to then develop our pastures in a different way. Developing the pastures and reducing inputs. Okay? So we had to research what grows best in our area, what can we use, how to use it, how can we not fertilize anymore, you know. So we went from using 1 acre to produce 1 animal to 1 acre now producing about 2 1/4 heads without fertilizing, reducing costs, reducing the amount of fuel being used. We found grasses that came from Africa that work excellent in our area. We got some bugs called the dung beetle. So the cattle fertilize the pasture themselves. You make smaller pastures, the dung is all over the place. The beetles bury. You make sure, you know, use any insecticide that will kill the beetle. So, you know, you create your own ecosystem within your farm. So much so that at our place, there's a crested caracara that flies from the north to nest in Panama. It has taken residence in our area, you know, because of the sea eaters. Let me talk about grass just a little bit more. It's a grass that produces 21 to 28% 12 to 18% protein, 21 to 28 tons of dry matter per hectare per year, you know, and it grows well in the tropics.
Does the market determine, did the market entirely determine what you've done, or did you have other issues like climate change or variability in case of Fitzroy and so on? What pushed you in the direction of that you've gone in terms of creating a farm which is an ecosystem in its own right, using everything and reusing everything?
Competition.
Competition in market, right.
And it's also market driven, what the people want. But if you don't change and try to do it different, you'll get behind.
Do you think though that farmers, and coming back to something that Keely said, do you think that farmers should lead to as much as follow? In other words, to try to educate the palates of the consumer rather than merely following let's just say everybody wants iceberg, but there are other varieties of lettuce that could be just as nutritious, perhaps use less water, I don't know. Should we not try to educate people rather than say, well, everybody wants a lot of marbling because they see it on Food Network, so we have to give them that kind of deal. That's what I'm trying to understand. To what extent should we lead as much as we follow?
You can do two things. The marble beef and everything like that is all, these animals are fed in feedlots and stuff like that. We are doing not the exact same thing, but we are getting very good results and very good taste on grass-fed beef. And so we pride ourselves to say we have safe-fed cattle. That's very important. Food safety is so important. So we're not just following, we're also redesigning what we're doing. We're using nature and making as good a product as possible. And healthy.
And adding value?
Adding value and also working along with the environment.
So you label your stuff this way?
We label our stuff as grass-fed.
Grass-fed.
Yes.
And
that's safe-fed cattle.
And the market is responding to that differentiation that you're making in market.
Actually, it's a market trend today.
In Belize.
Well, yes.
In Belize. Okay, thank you very much for that, Alison. Your perspective now, moving from cattle to food juice, I don't know.
Yes.
Give me your perspective.
Yes, my perspective is from the agro-processing side of things. Though it's marked and influenced a lot by coming from public sector experience involving regulations, as well as in other areas where it's assisting with OTN on negotiating the processed goods part of it. But to answer to looking at the topic redesigning and retrofitting, when I first saw it, I thought, of course, instantly these are manufacturing industry type terms, where one retrofits to improve efficiency and effectiveness. You monitor the results. If it's not happening, then you go to the redesign phase. And perhaps I ask myself the question, in retrofitting is always the first option, but is it achieving the results that you want to achieve? Because it would be maybe perhaps the most economical option. And if over the years we've been, is it that we're lacking the proper measurements in agriculture to not send the strong enough signals that we need to go back to the redesign phase? And of course we're speaking generally. Now that is looking at the topic from a very broad brush perspective. From my personal experience in the agro-processing industry, I left public sector about 5 years ago, hearing a lot about the thrust to diversify and add value to your primary agricultural products, and I'm still young, but I was with all this energy, and I thought, wow, with my background in chemistry, I loved innovation. I did food chemistry, thinking of blending things. I conceptualized a project, fresh juice processing plants. All gung-ho about it, went to governments, went to various financial institutions, and boy, I mean, I think the pain I got, and I felt right down there, would have had me easily in another field. And I did have some other choices available. But I kept myself around the people who provided me with that sort of the backing, that sort of positive thing, and I shredded on until one day I was told, by the way, this is a developmental type of project. Approach the development bank. And they supported it. We, of course, had problems we tried to work with a few individuals because the theme, we wanted to do fresh fruit juices from fruit pulp. But that was a problem in itself.
What?
And getting the fruit. And
reliability and
that is right. So you couldn't design and go take huge risk in getting funding to design a project solely on that. It just wouldn't work. No bank will support you. So we secured a contract for packaged water. It helped in seeking financing because it was with the largest chain and it provided some level of stability. But what it did, of course, it killed the initial impetus to develop the new fruit juice products forward. Notwithstanding, we stuck to it. I did some formulations. We had just 1 or 2 market trials, but it was just, we couldn't get any further until I came across Windfresh. Windfresh was with Deco, and they have, again, when we speak of things being private sector led, yes, it's a Windward Island government company, but very much private sector like oriented. And it was right along their objectives of propelling diversification, looking for value added. And so we formed a joint venture. There came Hurricane Thomas last year. So we got affected, but we got an opportunity to redesign. And we have been, through them, we're getting pulp from St. Vincent and Grenada because they also have interest in these countries, pulping. We've developed some formulations, a mango tango, which is mango based, and papaya orange, and citrus. Now, these things, we worked on the formulations from, it's about 1.5 years. It involved going with the Vincentians, because it was their pulp. I must say, and that the amount of investment you make into that, even secure labels, packaging, by the time we were ready to produce, we can't get the grapefruit pulp, we can't get the papaya. So I have an inventory of, for instance, about 1 million labels that we can't do, but there is some mango available. So very soon you would be seeing it has not been launched as yet, but the formulations have been approved. We have the packaging. In fact, when I really should have brought some of these with me, but when Una May asked me at a social event a few weeks ago, Alison, I want you to talk. I was not sure of what perspective that she would have liked me to speak about. As I mentioned, I'm involved in other areas, but perhaps maybe over the course of the next few days, I think.
All right, but let me throw back to this end of the table quickly. The question I have coming out of this is, to what extent, you heard me ask it of Dala just now, to what extent do you now see public policy shifting? If you're saying that the private sector must drive this thing, you say that the market, what people want or need, should drive this thing. If you're saying that restaurants are calling, saying we need this and we need that, how does public policy react to that, particularly at a time when quick service restaurants or fast food chains are popping up across the Caribbean, even more so, and their policies are to bring in the inputs from outside, supported, you might say, by the World Trade Organization. The governments are saying, let's relax the common external tariff and bring in more of this stuff and drive the prices down. So how do you square that with the direction of that public policy you think should take? Let me start with you, Keith. What should the governments be doing differently that they're doing now in part of this retrofitting or redesign?
The thing is I know certainly in Barbados, the government policy is for sustainability, increased production, global competitive, market driven. It's all there. The policies say that. In terms of the actual, what is the implementation? What is the strategy to get these things happening? This is where the follow comes. This is where the challenges really are. How do you go about doing it? What you are seeing, what we want to do, what we want to see happening is, they say farming as a business, okay? I'm a farmer. I'm farming in the open field. My idea of farming as a business, I'm first a scientist, so I'm trying to find all the scientific information. I'm trying to pull out the scientific information that is going to give me the highest yields at the lowest cost, and is going to be sustainable, something that my workforce can do, or that I can do. I'm looking for that information to come up with a proper model. A business is a repeatable process. Anything else is a hobby. That's what I'm trying to do in my business. Because it's a farm, because it's influenced by climate, because it's influenced by weather, it does not mean that we cannot control many of the other aspects of it. 2/3 of what we do in open food production we can control, and the other 1/3, which is weather, we can predict. Because, yes, we can predict, and the prediction models are a lot better than what they were years ago. You go to cimh.edu.be, you see what Adrian Troutman is doing. I've been following these weather patterns. Now that I know a lot more about agrometeorology, this is the natural climate variability. You may think that this is all climate change. It is not. I will acknowledge that yes, we have seen an increase.
The same institute that a few weeks ago said that say goodbye to seasons. This is the same institution that
I don't know who said
that
but
seasons, as we know, have come to an end.
No, that's not true. That is not true. What you had, let me explain something. In 2009 to 2010, we had El Nino. It's a normal oscillation. Coupled with a couple other things, whenever there's an El Nino event, you get drought. You get a very dry season. And the El Nino normally starts from late in the year. Then we have that followed by La Nina. La Nina, and these things are standard things. What do you think that the
standard? So the intensity hasn't changed.
Hold on. What you have seen, it is standard in terms of the knowledge about these things. The people who are farming in developed nations, they are using these prediction models. They actually have varieties that they grow when they know they're going to have higher than normal solar radiation. They have pest migration models. They have disease models. They have all kinds of models based on the climate information because they can use it a lot more accurately. They know when they're going to crop their fields because they're expecting excess rainfall. You can predict climate 3-6 months in advance.
So you're saying that basically in the Caribbean we need to be more industrialized in our food production?
No, I'm saying that there's a lot more science and technology that we can use in our planning that helps us to make the kind of decisions. Now, if I have 3-month information of above normal rainfall, I know that I need my beds to be higher. I know that I'm going to move away from crops that when they're waterlogged that they're going to cause problems. I know that I can tell my buyers, well, I'm expecting above normal rainfall, so there may be a lowering of yield. I know how to plan my business. I know that I'm going to have to apply preventative fungicides every week for particular things like downy mildew because I'm expecting this rainfall. And that's how I was able to produce crops when nobody else could get them to grow at the time when it was heavy rainfall because I knew what was happening.
This is readily accessible information.
It's readily accessible, and when you understand these things, then you understand the weather system. When it says above normal rainfall, it may mean that you might have 7 days of the sun. We're not trying to get the weather people to create bulletins that will tell us when we're having 7 days of sun or 2 weeks straight of sun. You know what that does to a man who is doing rain-fed production? And he puts in the day that it rains, and then after that there's 2 weeks of rainfall. All that happening then. 2 weeks of sun. All of those are the kinds of things. We don't have that information to help us make the kinds of decisions that will allow us to be more reliable, that will allow us to be more sustainable. If we have to apply fertilizers and we know that we're expecting X or Y, we may wait to another point because they might be leaching, or we apply less amounts. We can do the amount of precipitation. There are evapotranspiration plans. There are We can use our rain gauges, we can check the amount of runoff, and we can determine how much water is in the soil. There are geographic information systems that can now tell you all of the soil in St. Lucia. I could tell you exactly what's the water holding capacity of all of them at any point in time with those type of systems. There's so many things that we can do to understand what is happening in our environment to help us to produce reliably and consistently. It is not magic.
You are one mad scientist, mad as a vex. But Fitzroy will tell Mr. Fitzroy, share production in Valentine will say, no matter that. You don't have to worry about rain and so on. You've controlled the environment.
I want to stick a pin there because I worked at Hydrogrow Farms, which is the largest greenhouse production company in Barbados with 4.2 acres under greenhouse production for 2 years. And I've studied hydroponics intensively. And the reality about hydroponics is that you need something that is cost effective. Sweet peppers, tomatoes, herbs, lettuce are the crops that are most suited in terms of cost effectiveness for a shade house greenhouse setting. Because lettuce is coming out in 4 weeks, so the turnover is quick. Sorry, and seedless cucumbers. Tomatoes and peppers, you can plant them and they can stay for as much as 2 years. Okay? And then shade houses, or greenhouses in particular, are most effective when you are putting them more than 1,500 feet above sea level. Because the humidity in the tropics is lower up there. You put those on the low-lying aspects, and you're going to get a whole set of pest and disease problem out of this world. And I can tell you, because not only have I experienced it, I've been visiting every greenhouse setting in the Caribbean looking for answers. And so there is a lot of potential for hydroponics for those particular crops.
You saw you there.
Not every crop.
Recollect, Mr. Fitzroy, below sea level, just well below 1500, minus 1500. Counting. Explain that part of it, because you're operating at and below sea level.
Yes, in terms of what is this saying, I somewhat tend to disagree.
Yeah.
Because my experience is saying some other things to me. In terms of vegetables,
Do I keep this in?
yeah. In terms of root crops, roots and tubers from the ground, as it is right now, we have to use a small portion of land to produce the same amount of stuff. And by this, it costs us far more because you have to do some trenches now and develop higher lands to plant. Because the water table is so high that the cassava can't come anymore, it tends to be rotting inside. Sweet potato by itself is a crop that requires the sun and need high level for it to grow also. Currently, where it used to grow before, it cannot grow. So there is something definitely happening in terms of change along here.
So you can adapt to the situation. She's saying that, you know, if you're dealing with higher elevations, you get away from some of the pest and disease issues. But how are you dealing with pest and disease issues at and below sea level? That's what I'm trying to think of.
Okay. Pest and disease in terms of cultivation by itself.
Right.
If you have a plant here for the very first time, nothing will come on it. But if it's here for like 3 or 4 crops, automatically something will develop. You have to get some kind of preventative measure to make sure that it does not become public crop. In this case, we normally use neem and some other household stuff.
No, the central question about public policy, let me drill down a little bit closer about what governments can or cannot do. A lot of people say that the governments are some of the worst perpetrators of some of these issues because you call an extension officer, first thing he can tell you is he's going to quote a chemical. It's like a drug dealership, right? How do you want the governments to respond to you in a way that sustains your method of sustainability, rather than pushing at other farmers and at you assistance, technical assistance, and expertise and information, which is essentially traditional. You have a problem, you find a chemical. How do you want the governments to change that, or do you have no problem with what they're doing right now? You tell me.
In terms of a change in what the farmer requires based on his experience, and most of the agricultural extension officers, some of them I think know both ways.
They go both ways.
They know both ways. Because traditionally we also know that if you intercrop with some crops, it tends to keep away certain insects. It is also known that if you plant successively one crop 4 or 5 times. That by itself also brings an insect there that will affect that plant. So in the cropping or after one crop, you change the crop that you also control. As I was saying before, in terms of the lettuce, they cultivate the lettuce. We never really get enough of what we want. Because if you go and you plant 500 head of lettuce now, and then you want to go 1,000 or 1,500, you find that the guy will come and hit you halfway and have to start. If you wanted the shade out, you'll be able to control it and have it all the time. This by itself actually exposes us to what is really required in terms of marketing. Because if somebody comes down and says, listen to me, I would like to have from you 300 head of lettuce every day. There is no way by which you will cultivate into the open field and give that lettuce to that person for 6 months.